That is symbolic of what it means to that family and how that provides their income, their health insurance, and their pension. So I'm a member of Congress, and it is trying times. But right now, in this room, are union members, men and women, who are coming together during these trying times to put a path forward to see how we collectively come together. So it's absolutely true that Representative Andrade and Representative Jackson go to Indianapolis and fight for your interests, and fight for Northwest Indiana's interests. And I go to Washington, D.C. and do the same. So what does that mean to you? First, you have to realize bipartisanship works, but also there's a force that believes that union labor shouldn't exist and that you should have the cheapest form of labor possible. We have to fight that in some instances. In Washington, D.C., I have to do it every day. I was on the Education Workforce Committee where a national right to work bill came forward each and every year. That exists. Where there were laws to reduce collective bargaining. We fought for and have Davis-Bacon that puts people to work on federal projects. So those things are all worth fighting for. And the force, for example, 4 years ago, was the Koch brothers hired 30 people to go door to door against me, paid them $30 an hour, because they want to employ people for the least amount of money, have no ability to collective bargain, or have union rights. There is that force that does exist. So we must be, like Randy said, strategic about when we work in a bipartisan way. So let me be perfectly clear. Thank you. I would not and could not be a member of Congress if it wasn't for all of you. Bar none. The effort, the time, the resources that you put forward during an election period allows members of Congress and the state legislature to go there and work for you. Now, it's your job to hold us accountable, and everyone does. What I mean by that is no one is shy in the union hall to tell me what I either do right or do wrong, wherever I go. And Randy and Steve are in constant communication, as are the steelworker leaders, iron workers, all the trades. And so, as I was coming in, I want to be impactful. And I want to say all these things that are important, but the bottom line is you need a fighter. Someone who fights for union labor and what that means to make sure you get that livable wage. So what have I done? Over 20 law enforcement agencies over the last 6 years have received funding for technology. I fought hard for a hydrogen hub. That was $8 billion, 16,000 construction jobs. We got it in one administration, the next administration took it away. I'm not going to stop fighting for those tax credits so that we can put people to work. We fought hard. The IBEW, the construction workers, the operating engineers, they had thousands of people putting solar farms and windmills together. Those tax credits were pulled. Those things are worth fighting for. Big projects, you're going to have the Flex Plan starting on 8094 in 2 weeks. It's going to cause headaches for all of us, but the fact of the matter is it's almost $500 million of investment that our union brothers and sisters are going to be working on, making a road safer for us. Just received word, $200 million for the dredging of the canal. That's good for putting people to work. I'm co-chair of the Steel Caucus. Ladies, stealing the show. That's all right. I'm co-chair of the Steel Caucus. Bottom line, my job is to protect the steel workers and the trades. Well, what does that mean? It means to protect against bad trade actors around the globe. China, North Korea, Brazil. Those countries, our adversaries, push subsidized steel into our market. Bottom line, it takes steel workers' jobs. And once they find ways to circumvent our trade policies, that's too late. When I go and testify in front of the International Trade Commission, what I have done 11 times, it's too late. We have lost jobs. And so ultimately, I try to get ahead of that to make sure that we have tariffs such as Section 232 to protect the steel industry at our national interest and our national security. So, big projects, Senator Young, in a bipartisan way, has a bill for shipbuilding. The Boilermaker president in Randy has been talking to me that for 6 years, since the day I got elected. There's a little bit of momentum. National security, we haven't had a barge or a ship built in our country in a very long time. We've offshored that work. We have the human talent, we have the labor, we have the lake, we're dredging the canal, we have the steel mills. That is something we should fight for. And the red flag that should go up for your attention is when Senator Young puts his name on something, usually Indiana benefits from it. So we are primed to be in at least a position 5 to 10 years from now on a shipbuilding capacity. International, I've got to talk about it because as I mentioned, it's trying times. The Iran war conflict. I'm going to tell you how that is going to affect us. Oil, diesel, jet fuel, cost of goods are going to skyrocket. There is no near end of sight with this war, and economically, it is going to impact your members. The cost of gas is going to go up, the cost of travel, the cost to move goods by air and by truck are going to go up in the near future. And that's a reality. We have to have a steady ship. As a member of Congress, before we send young men and women into harm's way, I want an exit plan. I want to know what the success rate is going to be. I want to know what the imminent threat was. I have been supportive of our troops, and I have been supportive of veterans. I'm going to take that off the table, but these are very trying times that we need members of Congress that absolutely, positively take that very seriously of what it's going to mean, not only internationally, but here nationally for our economy. And so, ultimately, what I'm asking for is, I can find a distraction or something for someone in your hall to be pissed off at me about. I can. It's behind every corner. And when it comes to men playing in women's sports or men in women's bathrooms, we've got bigger fish to fry. And I mean that seriously. When Randy and Steve talk about your pocketbook, that's serious business. I can't govern by Fox News or by social media reels. The fact of the matter is my job is to unite and provide for this district working well. So what I'm asking you to do is, one, to get to know your members of Congress and to relay to your members how important that representation represent you. Because you have choices. And I know that. But this is a trying time. And there are forces that will break a union if they can. And you have to fight against it. Collective bargaining doesn't fall from the sky. It was earned, and it has to be fought for. PLAs, they don't fall from the sky. They're fought for and earned. And so, we talked about 7-1 BP, United Steelworkers, potentially going on strike. How I got to be a member of Congress, literally, is I was a naive trustee. And I went, when they were on strike, to the union hall in 7-1. And after about 60 days, you all know this, you lose your health insurance. And most of the members at that time went through their savings, and we were able to tap into a hardest hit fund that an administration started to help people stay in their homes. Not important. What's important is when I was in that hall of 1,200 people at the Knights of Columbus on 119th Street, when they were about 65 days into that, I learned what collective bargaining was about. Because some guys are like, hey, I got to cross the line because I've got to provide for my family. And then other guys and women got pissed off because they were crossing. And if I remember correctly, like 6 or 12 crossed over out of about 1,200. But that's what I understood, because the president of that union at that time, he had a nickname, either Tex, Duke, I can't think of his name. Danko. Yep, Danko. He took command of that room and said these men and women have to do what they have to do for their family. But we can't be distracted on what our mission is to have collective bargaining collectively together. The sacrifices that we have made to have a safer workplace, a fair wage, and protect our union men and women. That's where I learned what a union is. And I take that with me to Washington, D.C. So don't leave this room without knowing every big project that I can fight for and advocate for, I want to bring to Northwest Indiana. And what does the Bears Stadium mean to Northwest Indiana? It puts everyone in this room to work, right? It puts people to work. Building it, the infrastructure. The infrastructure is gonna be hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars. It puts people to work. That's worth fighting for, against all odds. And it'll make us feel good that we're an NFL team, but it'll put people to work. And then to our police and firemen, I had a Hammond policeman, and I can't think of his name, for 5 years chased me around about the Social Security bill. Publicly humiliated me wherever I went, so that law enforcement and firemen had their fair share of Social Security. Mr. Thorpe is getting credit for that. Literally, wherever I went, publicly or privately, need to get this done, fair and equitable. We got it done. All I'm asking you to do is not forget that.